subject of my book is Soviet secrecy. Why does that deserve attention? For two reasons. One is because the history of Soviet secrecy is little known. The Soviets built a special and very effective system of secrecy, and my book describes that. The other thing is to show who gained and who lost as a result. So the gains accrued to the political leaders because it made their positions very secure and gave them enormous freedom of action. But the costs were borne by society because although the rulers presided over a secret and very capable state, the capabilities of the state were degraded by secrecy itself. Because of secrecy, they ended up dominated by groupthink, indecision, a mistrustful population, and mistrustful international partners as well. I got the idea for the book 25 years ago. I was sitting in a Russian archive studying transactions between the army and the defense industry to buy and sell weapons to each other. All of this went on within the state, but both sides were using military secrecy to try to put one over on the other. And I thought, that's interesting, secrecy deserves a closer look. It took me a long time after that to work out how to do it. I called my book Secret Leviathan. Leviathan is the invincible sea monster of the Old Testament, but since Thomas Hobbes, political scientists have used Leviathan as a metaphor for the state. It's not obvious how to study secrecy. In open societies, such as most Western countries, it's relatively easy to find out what are the rules, what are the norms, what is the extent of secrecy. And among other things, secrets are being leaked all the time, and these test the limits of secrecy. In a closed society like the Soviet Union, you have to be very patient and wait until the system falls. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, it was possible to go into the Russian archives and start to find not only millions of secret documents, but also gradually to find the system. And that's what my book is about. My book has a few fun facts. One that I like particularly is a comparison of the number of informants in America and in the Soviet Union at the height of the Cold War. So we know that both the FBI and the KGB maintained informants for purposes of counterintelligence. And the numbers involved on each side are instructive. So in around 1975, the FBI had 1,500 informants. We can also work out how many the KGB had. Not exactly the same year, but slightly early, 1968, the KGB had 165,000 undercover informants. Bearing in mind the Soviet population is slightly larger than the American population at the time, the difference is 1 to 100. Soviet secrecy was special in two ways. One is the philosophy. That is, secrecy was not only enveloping of a vast amount of information, but it also covered itself, so that the system of secrecy, the rules, the censorship and so on, were never discussed in public, were themselves secret. So secrecy covered itself. The second thing was it was extremely effective, and the Soviet Union existed for 70 or 80 years without any major leaks of information. There were four things, I call them the four pillars of Soviet secrecy, that made it work so well. First was the Soviet monopoly, not only of production but also of communication. So all communication in society went through the state, whether it was the press, the media, the telephone system, the postal system. It was hard to communicate with anybody not in the same room without going through the state. The second thing was censorship, so that anything that was published was scrutinized beforehand for content that might either be revealing of important information or discreditable to the state. The third thing was the way that the ruling party operated. So every party member was instructed in the norms of what they called conspirativeness, right? The essence of conspiracy. And the essence of conspiracy was nobody knows anything without a need to know. And nobody has the right to know, there is only the need to know. And every piece of secret information can be tracked all the time. You are personally responsible for the secret information that you hold. The fourth pillar was the secret police. which held secret information on all the citizens and which was directly responsible for supervising the security of government communications in every factory, every office, every cultural organisation. What was it like for the citizen or the official to live and work in this secretive society? So for officials, it was often quite frightening because they had to administer these very complex, time-consuming secrecy rules and procedures, and there was often the fear of accidental violation. Of course, everyone was paranoid about spies, but accidental disclosure could be punished as well. But for ordinary people who had no direct connection to secrecy, there was the knowledge that the secret police had secret information about you. You didn't know what it was, you didn't know how it affected your life. The promotion that was suddenly blocked, or the application to travel abroad that was refused, you didn't know why, but you could always suspect that there was something in your past that they knew about, right or wrong. You had no means of appeal. The Soviet Union was so secretive that it bore very many heavy costs that detracted from its real capabilities. And that's really what the book is about.